Hi, I'm Danielle Singley, Program Manager of the Baltimore County Department of Aging's Home Team Program. I am honored that you are considering or have chosen to volunteer with the Home Team and truly appreciate your interest in serving in the Baltimore County community. This two-part PowerPoint presentation is your orientation and intended to provide you with a general overview of what to expect when you volunteer. Part 1 will be facilitated by me and will focus on the Home Team's COVID-19 response, our services and safety protocols. Part 2 will be facilitated by our department's social worker and center connection manager, Yvonne Yinch, and social worker, Kyla Duhart, and will focus on our customers' needs with an emphasis on wellness. Let's begin now with part 1 of the Baltimore County Department of Aging's Home Team Volunteer Orientation.
And everyone, welcome to our volunteer orientation. I am Danielle Singley, the program manager. I have been in this role since 2012. I came to this role because I have loved working with older adults, and I had the pleasure to start working with older adults at the age of 12. I also started as a volunteer. I truly believe in the importance of volunteerism. I think it's really good for younger people to get involved with volunteerism at a young age. I think it's great for the community. And I also think it's a really good way to kind of bring people together and introduce people who have not had an opportunity to work with different populations so that we can all forge a greater understanding. The Home Team in particular is a great opportunity to give back to people who don't have a strong support system. So this orientation is intended to provide you, again, with a really good foundation so that you understand what to expect. However, it is important to note that if you should decide to move forward with a placement, you will meet with a staff person that will connect you with a senior, or if you're in a food agent program, that staff person will connect you with a pantry and a route, and then you will get a placement specific orientation that will walk you through what to expect on your particular placement, because we do know that people are individuals and have individual needs. So let's begin with our first presentation. Next slide, please, Ethel. Okay, what is the Home Team program? So the Home Team program is an award-winning volunteer program of the Baltimore County Department of Aging. The Home Team serves Baltimore County seniors who are homebound and in need of supplemental person-centered support services to help them remain independent in their own homes. Eligible seniors must be at least 60 years of age and most in need to receive services. And this is important to note because we do have an intake process, even during COVID-19 restricted services. You do have to speak with a field coordinator or a staff person within the Home Team. Or if we're in partnership with, say, the Department of Social Services or any of our other partnering agencies, a social worker can make a referral for a senior to be connected to one of our staff persons. Or you can just call the Department of Aging to find out how you can apply individually to become a client of the Home Team. When I say client, I am referring to our customers. So that's a terminology that we do tend to use within the Home Team program. So moving forward, you may hear me use the word client instead of senior, but just know that I'm talking about our customers. Next slide, please. The Home Team program services. Let's talk a little bit about the structure of the Home Team. So we are comprised of both staff, volunteers, and of course, our clients. So we have 5 staff people who are part of the Home Team program. I am the program manager, so I oversee the daily operations of the program. Then we have 3 staff, 3 regional staff, referred to as field coordinators. They are also our volunteer coordinators. They are assigned to a region. So on the west region of Baltimore County, which extends from the Lansdowne area all the way up to the Reisterstown Road area, 795. That region is assigned to, and she's the person who is primarily responsible for the placement coordination. From the 795 corridor all the way over to Parkville up to the Maryland-Pennsylvania line, that is considered the North region, and that region is assigned to Barb. And she has the same responsibilities as Lily. She is responsible for placement coordination. And then on the east side in the home team is defined as the Parkville area down to Sparrows Point, up to the Baltimore city line. That region is assigned to Kathleen. And she's responsible for placement coordination. And we do have an office assistant who's with us twice a week named Lola. The home team staff, generally speaking, like I said, are responsible for client intakes, volunteer vetting, coordination of placements, placement support, and program reporting. So when volunteers submit their monthly report at the end of each month, the staff will tally those hours and then submit that information to our local and state governments. Our volunteers are a very important aspect of our program, of course. You are the pretty much the bread and butter of what we do. We couldn't do anything if it weren't for volunteers. We have a very large, group of people throughout Baltimore County that provide services. Some volunteers are in regular placements, meaning they are doing work every day and are in placements with individuals who need either weekly or monthly services through our friendly visiting or food agent programs. We also have volunteers that are on call. So if, say, we have a volunteer that is unable to work or volunteer with the home team because perhaps they are on vacation or something has come up that has made it impossible for them to do their volunteer assignment, we will call upon those volunteers. And then we also do occasionally work with larger groups for food distribution operations or for any other thing that might come up that will require a large group of staff or volunteers. We do offer other support services outside of the COVID-19 restrictions. So right now, just to be clear, these are services that right now we are not offering, but the home team, when we are not under COVID-19 restrictions, do provide assistant transportation services to our home team clients and shopping assistance services to our home team clients, or eligible seniors who are case managed, isolated, and homebound. The services that we provide those individuals are typically offered on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So once again, just to emphasize that we are a supplemental program. When we're a volunteer service, it's not intended to keep people necessarily sustained, but it is something that will be like that extra cherry on top. So if you are a senior in the community that's receiving Meals on Wheels and you get your meals during the day, but you find that sometimes you might need, a little extra food to help you get through the month, we're happy to connect you with a volunteer. Our services are to connect people who are homebound to services that are already available in the community. So if there's a food pantry that is within, the volunteers or the client's area, and they are eligible for that food pantry, if we have a volunteer, we will try to connect that individual to that food pantry, just so as long as they're able to, they go through the intake process. Next slide, please. So who are the home team clients? I kind of started talking about this a little bit in our previous slide. Many of our clients are referred to us through a human services or a social services agency. An example of that would be Department of Social Services, or even our internal community outreach services, service coordinators within the Department of Aging. Our seniors also have a limited social support network. So typically there are people that they don't have family that, are able to stop by and check on them or, take them out to a food pantry. They are all homebound. or with limited transportation. They are living independently in their own private home or a loved one's private home. They are in need of individualized, person-centered supplemental support service, assistance, and check-ins. Now, this is important because this is what sets us apart from, say, a transportation service only, because we provide an additional service in addition to transportation. And again, this is not, during COVID-19 restricted services, we're not providing transportation, but I wanted to just say that, volunteers are also there as a one-to-one to kind of ensure someone arrives to locations safely as an escort. They may also be in need of supplemental food, and they may exhibit feelings of loneliness or have other wellness needs. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about the home team changes during the COVID-19 pandemic. So on the left side, I have a list of the services that are currently being provided. And on the right side are the services that are not being provided right now due to restrictions, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So right now, we are providing no contact food delivery of unrefrigerated food items from assigned food pantry or food distribution sites. That is typically on a monthly basis by our volunteers. We are providing telephone reassurance and social calls by volunteers. Typically, it's a minimum of 1 hour per week. We are providing client intakes or referrals by phone, email, or mail. We are receiving client intakes or referrals by phone, email, or mail. And we are facilitating the volunteer vetting process by phone, WebEx, email, or mail. We are not providing the following services at this time: assisted transportation or escort services. Let's just say, though, in the future, as we move forward with looking for ways that we can better serve our community, our seniors who are homebound, especially as we are trying to find ways to get people to different appointments, we may revisit this in the future. But as of right now, we are not providing those services. We are not providing in-home visits or in-home well-being checks by our volunteers. And we are not providing in-home or client visits and well-being checks by our staff either. All of our meet and greets are going to be done on WebEx. So of course, we're not doing in-person volunteer meet and greets. So the meet and greets, again, are once you become a volunteer, those are opportunities for us to come together, socialize, talk about, what we're going through, what we are experiencing on our placements, ask questions. You'll hear updates from me on what's happening with the county, with the department, and with the home team. So right now, we are only doing those on WebEx. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about volunteering during COVID-19. So first, in order to become a volunteer, you do have to successfully complete the vetting process. The vetting process consists of an application, interview with an orientation and background check. So this right here is your orientation, or at least part of your orientation, because once you become a volunteer, then, like I said, you will go through a placement orientation. So if you decide to work with us within the capacity of a food agent, you are assigned a route in a pantry. So when I say a route, that is referring to a group of seniors that live within a certain radius of a pantry that we're working with. So for example, let's say I'm a food agent and I am assigned to a group of seniors that live in the Gwen Oak area. My food pantry location might be the Liberty Senior Center food distribution site, which is open, right now, they're open certain days during the week. So when you sign up and you are assigned that route, you will go to that food distribution site in accordance to what was arranged by the staff person. The food agents are not responsible for coordinating that stuff, that the logistics behind their assignment. The staff person will do that, but you will be going to the same exact food pantry location, and you will keep the same route of seniors until, the senior says they no longer need the food, or until, you say that you're no longer available. So food agents are required to wear a mask. They are required to adhere to social distancing requirements and all other federal, state, and county health regulations. When you become a volunteer, whether it is a telephone visitor or a food agent, you will receive with you during the vetting process a job description that will also clearly outline everything that you would need to know to ensure that you are adhering to social distancing requirements and any other policies and procedures to ensure that you're able to successfully administer your volunteer role. Our telephone visitors are assigned one or more seniors to call weekly. They have to have their own phone and use their own phone. Volunteers, all volunteers are still required to submit monthly reports. And seniors are not required to sign food agent volunteer reports until further notice. So that's getting back to our food agents. When you have a route, typically there is a section on the food agent report that requires the senior to sign for it. And because we're under COVID-19 restrictions, we are trying to limit any kind of interaction with people. And so we have completely waived that aspect of the requirement. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk now about the volunteer manual and reporting. So we have a volunteer manual that we give to volunteers. It is really important that you keep that volunteer manual and review it. In it, we discuss and we have policies that are crucial to your understanding of not only how the home team operates, but also other resources of the agency. It has information in there that discusses how to complete your monthly report, when your monthly reports are due. It also frames liability and how, what happens should an emergency occur. And it also gives you a really firm understanding of how the home team works in conjunction with other programs. When you first come on as a home team volunteer, we ask that you sign a receipt and mail back to the home team office, or scan and send it to the home team email address, just a receipt saying that you have received the manual and that you are in agreement to abide by the policies within the manual. You've probably noticed that I have referenced monthly reports multiple times during this PowerPoint presentation, and that is because they are extremely important to our program. We do realize that monthly reporting is not something that people may think about or feel that it's important. It might even feel a little burdensome. But to be honest, it's really important. And I would say that it's almost as important as the service itself, because, it is a way for our funders, local government, state government, federal government, to see the fruits of our labor and understand that we are provided a needed service, that people are actually using it and they need it. It is also a way for us to gauge, where someone is and if they might need additional help. On the reports, we have an area for volunteers to note any concerns, and we do look at those reports. So in addition to your regular interactions with your field coordinators, We do also invite you to make comments on your monthly report. So it's a document. Those are your timesheets. They are, like I said, they are the revenue that we use to really show that, we are needed in the community and that we are valued and that we are of service to people in Baltimore County. So they're very important. And we have 3 different options for you to mail in your monthly reports. You can either send them in through email, address, or fax. Slide, please. So these are just a couple of strategies to ensure a successful volunteer experience. For telephone visitors, I always recommend that you try icebreakers to find common interests. When you first start volunteering, it's always a little awkward. It's awkward for everyone. It's even a little awkward for staff when you're first, engaging with a senior in the community, and you're trying to kind of gauge, their personality so that you can make an appropriate volunteer placement. So, there's no pressure. You can just try some icebreakers, talk about things that you might have in common. I always recommend being really flexible, patient, considerate, and consistent with your telephone calls and times. That's how you establish trust. Customer service is very important to me. Everyone is different. Some people may warm up quick, more quickly than others. And, as volunteer coordinators and as volunteers and human service providers, we have an understanding of the importance of just allowing people time. So that's something that I think would really be an important thing to note and to try as a volunteer. Just don't give up if someone is not, readily open to, pouring out their heart and soul. They might seem a little quiet at first. It's not because, it's not you, that, sometimes it takes a minute for someone to warm up. Privacy is important. I definitely recommend you dial *67 before dialing a client number to keep your phone number private. Some of our volunteers will not, some of our clients rather, either will have a block on their phone that will not allow private numbers to come in, or they screen their calls, so they may not want to answer even a *67 number. So in those cases, I recommend that you consider getting maybe a Google Voice number. If you want more information about how to get a Google Voice number or something similar, feel free to reach out to me. For food agents, I recommend that you learn your route in advance of actually going out to provide the service. So when you get an assignment, you'll have a list of names and, their addresses. Always a good idea to try that route out before the day you have to go out and actually, pick up the food from the pantry. Definitely recommend that you learn the pantry rules and the client neighborhoods before the date of the pickup and delivery. And ask questions, prior to the start of your volunteer shift. So for example, if you are scheduled to go to a food pantry and you have a list of maybe 3 or 4 clients that you're taking food to that day, I recommend that you call those clients in advance of that appointment. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm your new volunteer. My name is Danielle Singley. I'm from the Baltimore County Department of Aging. I work with, and then you would name the person so that the client knows that you're legitimate. Wanted to find out from you if it was okay if I bring the food, the food that I'm scheduled to pick up from the Liberty Senior Center between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. on Tuesday. Just something like that so the client knows that, to expect you. Some of our seniors that we're working with, they may forget if you don't remind them. It's always good to give them as much notice as possible and to remind them that you are coming. Even when you're en route, I recommend calling that person when you're en route to deliver food to ensure that they remember to look out for you. And I like to give people as much information as possible so that they know who you are. So if I'm going to someone's house, I will say to them, I'm driving this color. I'll be wearing, whatever. I'll describe what I'm wearing. I'll let them know, that I will be carrying boxes so that, people are not, or so that people are not reluctant to open the door when you show up. Okay. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about establishing boundaries, but this will be discussed more in our second presentation with Yvonne Yinch and Kyla Duhart. So basically, privacy is definitely very important. So privacy is very important. We've discussed in a previous slide the importance of using *67 or maybe a Google Voice. You want to definitely limit, ensure that you're limiting your role to a designated volunteer time and stay within your position description. Try not to overpromise anything. That's going to ensure that you're able to, maintain some boundaries up front. In terms of topics of conversation to avoid, it's always recommended that you stay away from politics, any kind of family issues, or the volunteer's personal dilemmas. Difficult conversations, if they should arise, let's just say that the client is having some difficulty between a family member. You want to remain neutral, listen, and if you're not comfortable, you want to gently change the subject if necessary. And that is to, ensure that, you're not put in a situation where someone's becoming more and more, escalated, and, you can pivot away from those things and maybe help the person find a different subject that will help ensure that, you're able to maintain those boundaries. So active listening is also important. You want to always ask for clarity before assuming, talk less and listen more. In family dynamics, kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, remain neutral, avoid being involved, anything that's complicated with families, and remember that you're there to serve the client first. Next slide, please. So is the home team role the right role for you? So here are the attributes that I think a food agent, a really successful food agent would have. So they are dependable, both in monthly reporting. Of course, they need to have a great sense of direction because you will be driving a vehicle. And let me just note this as well. In certain areas of the county, their Wi-Fi is a little iffy. So if you're depending upon a GPS to get to certain places, I just want to reiterate the importance of looking for, or sort of doing a dry run prior to you having to go into the community. So you also need to be able to lift and carry 25 pounds or more, able to climb stairs, you're compassionate and empathetic, flexible and friendly. Again, great customer service skills are very important to the home team. For telephone visiting, you definitely want to be dependable again, comfortable holding conversations in general, comfortable navigating difficult conversations, open-minded and able to tailor conversations to accommodate the client, compassionate and empathetic. I can't stress that enough for both the food agent and the telephone visitor. It's definitely something that I'm very strong about, just being really empathetic to people's personal situations. You want to be also flexible. That's something else that I'm very, very adamant about. And then also friendly and great customer service skills. Next slide, please. So here's a few volunteer resources. You are not expected to remember this, but I just wanted to kind of go over this a little bit in general. Again, this is all information that is in your volunteer manual. So we do have a process for accessing mental health services. That's important to note because during the COVID-19 pandemic, people are definitely feeling a little bit more anxious and people are experiencing, depression. And so we want to make sure people know the process for accessing mental health services. Monday through Friday, available for consultation is, of course, the home team staff. You can also call the Maryland Access Point, which is the Baltimore County Department of Aging's main phone line. After hours, you want to dial 311. After hours, meaning after 4 p.m., you want to dial 311. 311 is available for, if you want to report any kind of problems. Let's say, there is a client client that you're dealing with, and I don't know, maybe, she's called you because, or he's called you because there's an issue happening with, a neighbor or something like that. Maybe they just, want some basic information about something. That's a good resource to give to the client even, for them to make their own phone call. Crisis response is another really important resource in the community. It is, something that can be used in the event that someone is having an emergency situation related to, mental well-being. The phone number there is 410-931-2214. DSS is also available to report abuse or neglect. Next slide, please. So on this final slide is the home team contact information. If you have any questions, you can call 410-887-4141. Email hometeam@baltimorecounty.md.gov, and our address.
And that concludes part 1 of the Baltimore County Department of Aging's Home Team Program Volunteer Orientation. Let's now begin with part 2, which will be facilitated again by Center Connection Manager and Social Worker Yvonne Yinch and Social Worker Kyla Duhart.